Imagine that your wife cheated on you on your birthday while you were just looking after the children, and then you were also to blame for the whole thing. Well, I don't need to imagine that. And it all started with this. This night was supposed to be festive. I was turning 32. The children were asleep, the lights were dimmed in the living room, and I was sitting, waiting for her to return from her so-called company party. I didn't want her to go, not because I suspected anything, but because this day was important to me. Birthdays, anniversaries, I was sentimental. She once called me soft for that. Maybe I was. But what happened that night turned softness into emptiness. She came home at 3:02 a.m., curled up between two co-workers, like a broken puppet. Her hair was stuck to her forehead, her eyeliner was smeared across her cheeks, and she reeked of gin and something sour. I opened the door, and the taxi driver looked at me as if I ran a shelter for the morally bankrupt. Her friends quickly apologized and left. I stood there in my pajamas, watching the woman I love slide down the wall and whisper, "Happy birthday, my love." She passed out on the carpet. Morning came like a hangover I had no right to cure. She woke up slowly, curled up on the couch under a blanket I didn't remember covering her with. She looked small, hungover, and shy. "I have to tell you something," she said in a hoarse voice. "Please don't interrupt me. There are moments in life when your heart doesn't beat in your chest. It lives in your ears. It trembles in your hands." I nodded. "I slept with someone last night. I didn't plan it. I was drunk, and it just happened. I didn't want to. It doesn't mean anything." She started crying and shaking. I didn't say a word. I couldn't. It felt like someone had sucked all the oxygen out of the room. I just stood there, frozen in betrayal. She cried louder and louder. And the worst part? I believed her. I believed that she hadn't planned it. That it just happened. But of course, I couldn't get it out of my head that she had cheated on me with someone else. My head couldn't accept it, and my body wanted to tear something apart even more. Later, I went to the gym. I lifted weights as if my muscles could scream what my mouth couldn't say. I squeezed the betrayal out of myself. I squatted with regret. People looked at me. Someone called me crazy. I didn't care. I had nowhere to put my pain. That night we talked. Or rather, she talked and I listened. She said she would pack her things in the morning and go to her parents' house. I nodded. That was all I could give her. I left and spent the night at my parents' house, on a couch that smelled of old popcorn and old tranquility. The next morning, I returned to an empty apartment. Half of the toys were gone. Her scent lingered on the pillows. I sat in the kitchen with an empty coffee cup in my hand, trying to figure out how we had gone from bedtime stories and sleepovers to custody negotiations and weekend visits. Our daughter was 5 years old and a real handful. Our son was only a year and a half old and still laughed as if the world hadn't disappointed him yet. Now I only saw them on weekends. The job offer in North Carolina seemed like a joke. Good pay, good benefits, but too far away from my kids. I couldn't leave. But staying meant fighting for a job and fighting for rent. The numbers just didn't add up. Nevertheless, she agreed that I could take the children on weekends. It was the only lifeline in this sinking ship. I'm not telling you this to elicit sympathy. I don't even know why I'm writing this, except that pain needs a place to survive. And since my wife, my best friend, my only friend for many years, left my life, the silence has become too loud. I found out on Tuesday. It always seems to happen on Tuesdays, doesn't it? Not as dramatic as Friday. Not as poetic as Sunday. Just a dreary Tuesday at the end of March, when the sky couldn't decide whether to cry or just hang gray and heavy over everyone. I was folding laundry and listening to our daughter singing to herself in the other room, still using her toy doctor's kit to give her stuffed giraffe its daily checkup. Then my phone buzzed. The message was from her colleague. Well, her former colleague now. A guy named Ramon, whom I barely remembered, having only met him once. He wrote that he thought I had a right to know. A right to know what? 2 clicks and there it was. A photo, a little blurry, like a bad memory, but clear enough to make my heart sink. My wife, leaning too close to him. His name was John. We used to barbecue together. He brought IPA and joked about craft beer. I laughed. Because I was stupid. Because I was grilling burgers and he was looking at my wife like she was a side dish. I zoomed in until the pixels started to blur. I could see the corner of her mouth turned up in the smile she made when she was truly happy. Not a polite smile. Not a father's smile. A happy smile that I considered mine. I didn't know what to do. So I started doing laundry. I folded every sock with monk-like precision, as if the right fold could iron out the anger. Later that evening, I drove to John's apartment. I didn't tell her. I didn't take a gun. Just the truth and 2 fists that I hoped I wouldn't need. The apartment was tidy. Almost surgically clean. Like a crime scene that had been washed down before the investigators arrived. He opened the door wearing a Lakers t-shirt and looked at me in surprise for a second, then his face lit up with recognition, as if he had been doused with bleach. Blinding. Burning. Did you come here to beat me up? He asked. No, I replied. You're not worth the bruises on my hands. He even looked relieved. I just want you to know that I know. That's all. I know. He nodded. No apology. No denial. That killed me even more. As if it wasn't even worth lying about. I turned around and drove home with the windows open, the cold wind stinging my face, reminding me that I was still alive, even if it didn't feel like it. When I got back to my parents' house, I found my dad in the garage, sanding down an old rocking chair as if it were a form of meditation. Are you okay? He asked. I stared at the wood shavings piling up like years I couldn't get back. No, I replied. But it'll be okay. He nodded and handed me some sandpaper. Then help me finish this chair. Maybe you'll need it in your new apartment. That night, I dreamed that I was back in our old apartment, before the children were born, before the betrayal. Just her and me on the couch, legs intertwined, a bowl of popcorn between us. She was laughing at something silly I said. And for a moment, I felt safe. Then I woke up, and silence enveloped me like a wet towel. Heavy. Cold. And I remembered, the man she slept with brought IPA to our barbecue. Next, the kids ask why their mom doesn't live here anymore. And I have to answer without crying. Children are masters at asking the worst questions at the worst times. Saturday morning. Cartoons are blaring. Our daughter Penny is in her sparkly unicorn pajamas, her legs propped up on the coffee table as if she's paying rent. My son Milo, who is 1 year old and has not yet figured out what gravity is crawling around with a plastic spoon as if it were a valuable artifact. I'm cutting bananas for their oatmeal when she asks, Daddy, why doesn't Mommy live with us anymore? The spoon falls out of my hands. Time stops. I freeze with the banana in my hand. There is no textbook for situations like this. There is no parenting guide with a section on how to explain betrayal using cartoon logic. I crouch down next to her. Mom and Dad had a big grown-up fight. And sometimes when that happens, people have to live in different houses. Like a timeout, she asks seriously. God, help me. Something like that, sweetie. But, longer. She thinks. Then she nods. Okay. Can I have some more syrup? And just like that, it's over. The cloud has turned into pancake filling. I watch her walk away, her hands sticky, and again I feel the earth shake beneath my feet. Later, after the kids are asleep, I sit on the porch and watch the wind tug at the bare trees. I think about everything I should have said to her. Not Penny, not Milo. To her. The woman who once said forever and meant it until John broke that promise like a glow stick at a rave. I wanted to call her. Just to hear her voice and remember if I hated it now or missed it so much I didn't care. Instead, I called Mark. Mark was my roommate in college. He lives in Denver now. Financial analyst, podcast fan, has 2 bulldogs and the emotional intelligence of a cactus dipped in bourbon. But he picked up. You sound like a divorce ghost, he says. Are you drinking? Banana oatmeal and sadness. He laughs. God. Come over. I have a couch. And beer. I smile. I don't say yes, but I don't say no either. Then he says something I didn't expect. You know what I envy about you? You're suffering, yes, but you're not pretending anymore. I see men who have been married for 10 years, mired in apathy. They sit on the couch next to a woman they no longer love, watching Netflix and calling it marriage. You suffer, but you're honest. That hit me harder than any of John's words. Honesty. A luxury paid for with a broken heart. When the kids wake up, I take them out for ice cream. It's cold outside, but they don't care. We eat on a bench, Penny with chocolate on her nose, Milo throwing sprinkles into the air as if blessing the earth. Dad, Penny asks. Yes? I think Mom misses you. I swallow my tears. Maybe. Then she hugs me, sticky and warm. But I still have you. That's the best thing. And I don't cry. I don't cry. But my vision blurs so much that the world seems softer. When we get home, I put on their favorite movie. The one where the dog talks and saves Christmas. Penny laughs. Milo claps at the wrong moments. I sit surrounded by crumbs, crayons, and little feet. And for the first time in weeks, I realize. Maybe I lost my wife. But I'm still a damn good father. I had just put the kids to bed and was halfway through wiping applesauce off the refrigerator door when the doorbell rang. 2 quick rings. Clear. Decisive. I wasn't expecting anyone. I opened the door and almost gasped in surprise. It was her mother. Pamela. The queen of condescension. The duchess of passive aggression. The empress of endless questions. She was wearing a peach cardigan, holding a pot, and smiling as if the last 3 weeks had never happened. Surprise, she said, walking past me as if I were a butler and not the man her daughter had just emotionally devastated. She took 3 steps before wrinkling her nose. It smells like sadness and bleach. Oh, and bananas. I'm glad to see you too, Pam. She clapped her hands once. So, I brought tuna and macaroni casserole. The kids still like it, right? You remember they don't like pepper, right? Because Sandra always forgets and uses the black and white speckled kind, and... I raised my hand. Pam, what are you doing here? She looked genuinely offended. Well, your father-in-law said I should stop by. And I have coupons for Bed Bath & Beyond that expire next week. There it was. The emotional depth of a kiddie pool. And also, she added, pausing like a soap opera actress delivering her final line, Sandra said you've been acting difficult. Difficult. Not broken. Not betrayed. Not broken, not bloodied, not trying to raise 2 children while her marriage falls apart like a poorly assembled IKEA shelf. No, just difficult. I didn't argue. It wasn't worth it. Instead, I went into the kitchen and let her follow me, watching her survey the empty room like a real estate appraiser who only sees flaws. Want some coffee? I asked. It wasn't hospitality. It was self-defense. Caffeine might give me patience. She nodded, already opening cabinets that weren't hers. And we'll talk while it brews. About Sandra. About the kids. About your finances. The kettle screamed louder than me. We sat down at the table, she sipped her coffee as if it were wine at dinner, and between sips of her casserole, she made subtle remarks. I must have looked tired. The children seemed overexcited. And my choice of brand-name paper towels was questionable. But then came the most interesting moment. You know, she said gently, cutting the tuna like a surgeon of shame, maybe if you were a little more spontaneous, Sandra wouldn't feel so constrained. I dropped my fork. It hit the plate like a small war drum. Pam, I said slowly, your daughter cheated on me. On my birthday. With a man who was once a friend and often came to visit me. This isn't about spontaneity. It's about honesty. She blinked. Once. Twice. Then she folded her napkin with military precision and said, well, I guess there are 2 sides to every story. I stood up. And some sides are just betrayal in a better light. That was it. That was the last straw. Indelible ink. I walked her to the door. Gently. Politely. Like a man who had learned to hold back thunder. When I opened the door, Milo cried out from upstairs. She paused. He has your eyes, she said. No, I replied. He has my heart. That's not the same thing. I closed the door without letting her answer. That night, I found a note on my pillow, written by Penny in pencil. It said, "I love you, even when you're sad." And for some reason, that was more important than anything her mother could have cooked, said, or criticized. When I saw her for the first time after everything fell apart, after the confession on her birthday, the broken promises, and weeks of silence, it wasn't like in the movies. There was no rain. There was no thunder. There were no slow-motion hugs or even screams in the parking lot. Just her, in a dark blue jacket, walking down the driveway, and me, holding a trash bag full of diapers and coffee filters. She looked surprised to see me. Which, considering she had lived here 2 months ago, was pretty weird. "Hi," she said, shoving her hands in her pockets. "Hi," I replied. Then, to break the tension, I added, "You're just in time." I was about to turn the trash can into a landfill. She smiled slightly. But I knew that smile. It's the smile you put on when your stomach is turning. "Can we talk?" she asked. We ended up in the living room, her on the couch, me in an armchair with a cup of reheated coffee that tasted of regret and burnt beans. Penny was spending the night at a friend's house. Milo was asleep upstairs. Silence filled the space between us like fog on a battlefield. "I didn't come here to fight," she said. "Okay," I muttered. "Because I left my emotional armor at the dry cleaners." She ignored my jab. Typical. I wanted to explain. Explain what? The birthday surprise? Or the affair at the barbecue with John, the IPA sommelier? She blushed. "You always use jokes to distract me. And you used lies to cheat on me. We all have our hobbies." She sighed. And then something unexpected happened. "I miss us." It struck me as ironic. Me. The guy who once took her to an air show on our anniversary because he thought nothing expressed love better than fighter jets and fan decals. The guy who bought her a mop for Christmas because he thought she said she wanted one, she said she wanted to replace the bath mat. I wasn't perfect, I confessed, leaning forward. Hell, I wasn't even consistent. I forgot our second anniversary because I was fixing the sink and lost track of time. Once, I tried to fix the dishwasher with duct tape and prayers. And I've been wearing the same pair of sweatpants for 4 days straight because it's easier than doing laundry. But I never stopped choosing you. Not once. Tears welled up in her eyes. I almost felt guilty. Almost. "I know you loved me," she whispered. "But I felt invisible. So you became someone else. And left me with the ghosts." We fell silent again. Then I did something unexpected. I laughed. Not cruelly. Just absurdly. Bitterly. Honestly. "You know," I said, "I once shaved my beard, and it turned into this weird patchy mess because you said you liked Chris Evans. I looked like a lumberjack who lost a bet." Penny cried. Milo looked at me like I was a mugger. She laughed through her tears. I remember that. The room fell silent. She flinched, almost imperceptibly. But I didn't regret my words. Some truths deserve to be heard. "Want to try again?" she asked quietly. I hesitated. An old instinct, begging for the comfort of the familiar, tugged at my heart. But then I remembered Penny's note. Milo's laughter. The silence I had finally come to terms with. "No," I said. "I want to be better. And that means moving forward." She nodded, wiping her face. "Okay." I walked her to the door. As she stepped outside, she turned around. "By the way, Jonah dumped me." I shrugged. I guess he didn't like the smell of real life. She didn't smile. She just walked away. The letter arrived on Thursday evening, when all strange things usually happen: jury duty, boxes of prepaid goods you forgot to cancel, and sometimes a handwritten apology from the woman who broke your heart. I found it tucked between a pile of advertising flyers and a grocery coupon book. There was no return address, just my name written in handwriting I once recognized as my own. The letter still carried a faint scent of her perfume. The ones I pretended to hate but secretly sprayed on my pillow when she was out of town. The handwriting inside was a little messier. Just like hers. "Evan, I'm not asking for forgiveness. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted to say that if regret could be bought with money, I would buy back every moment we lost. Every smile I stole from you. Every evening you spent alone. You were the best part of me. Maybe you still are. Penny said you smile more. It made me cry. With happiness. Thank you for being their father. Thank you for not becoming indifferent. I'm sorry I didn't realize your value until I lost my place by your side. I reread the letter twice, maybe 3 times. Then I folded it, tucked it between the pages of an old Raymond Chandler novel, and went outside. 2 blocks away, there's a pizza place run by a guy named Vic who looks like the bass player from a ZZ Top cover band. Vic makes great calzone and knows everything about everyone. He also doesn't ask questions. That's good, because I walked in looking like someone who had just lost a game of chess to his own reflection. Vic handed me a slice of pizza without even waiting for me to order. Tough week, Evan? How did you know? He tapped me on the forehead. Your face is screaming in small letters. As I took a bite of pizza, someone sat down next to me. A woman. About my age. She was holding a well-read copy of Slaughterhouse-Five as if it were a purse. Mind if I sit down? I shrugged. Only if you promise not to talk about Vonnegut. I don't want to hear about time travel or war trauma today. She laughed. Not politely. Not for show. It was a laugh that sounded genuine. Deal. But I'm judging the pineapple on your pizza. Then we're doomed. Her name was Eliza. She taught English at a middle school. She deliberately wore 2 different socks. She said it confused her cat and kept her students on their toes. She told me this without embarrassment and with a slight smile. We talked. For 2 hours. About everything and nothing. She made me laugh. Really laugh. And when I told her about the letter, about Sandra, about the mop incident and the beard that made my daughter cry, she didn't even flinch. She leaned back in her chair and said, "It seems like you finally found yourself among the ruins." And she took a long sip of soda. And I like him. When I got home, Penny was asleep, hugging a stuffed giraffe with one arm on the spot where my pillow used to be with the other. Milo was snoring like an exhausted cartoon character. I covered them both and stood there longer than I should have. I was breathing again. Not deeply, not evenly. But I was breathing. I replied to Sandra. Just one line. We're fine. Don't check again. And I hit send. It started as a road trip. Just me, Penny, Milo, a rental car with squeaky brakes, and enough juice boxes to hydrate a small militia. We'd been cooped up too long, and the idea of escaping the walls, if only for a weekend, felt like dragging my sanity back from the edge. We drove upstate to a petting zoo Penny had seen in a commercial. The kind where goats wear sweaters and alpacas pose for selfies. Low expectations, high sugar intake. 2 hours in, we stopped at a gas station that looked like it hadn't had working lights since 1997. While filling up, Penny spotted a little boy sitting on the curb crying. No parents in sight. No staff. "Dad," she whispered, tugging my sleeve. "I think he's lost." And just like that, she reminded me who she was. Who I was trying to be. We sat with the boy, got him talking, called the police, waited until his panicked mom showed up 20 minutes later. She sobbed and hugged me like I had rescued a drowning child instead of just staying put and showing up. But sometimes, that's all it takes, showing up. That moment would have been enough to make the trip worth it. But then came the goat. At the petting zoo, Milo immediately tried to befriend a baby pig. Penny, meanwhile, became obsessed with a grumpy old goat named Lemonhead who wore a bow tie and had no patience for humans. Naturally, she fell in love. "Can we keep him?" she asked, scratching his wiry chin. "I can't even keep a houseplant alive." "But he's got sad eyes like you." We both laughed. The kind that fills a chest. Then, the moment. The one I didn't see coming. She looked up at me, this little wild-haired miracle in overalls, and said, "Do you think Mommy will ever love you again?" Time. Stopped. Not in a dramatic movie way. In a real-life, gut-cramping, air-sucked from your lungs way. I knelt down, eye to eye with her. "I think Mommy and I had our time. And now it's Daddy's turn to learn how to be happy. She nodded thoughtfully. Then, with zero warning, said, "You're already better now. You laugh more. You don't yell at the dishwasher anymore. And you didn't cry this week." I blinked. "You keep track of that stuff?" "Of course," she said, serious as court testimony. "I'm your kid. And I lost it." Right there, between the goat pens and the overpriced churros, I hugged her so tight she squirmed and laughed and said, Okay, you're crushing my lungs." Milo threw hay at us. Lemonhead sneezed. It was chaos. It was perfect. That night, in the motel, after the kids had passed out watching cartoons and drooling on the same pillow, I got a message from Elise. "How's the goat?" I smiled. Still judging me. But less than usual. She replied, "I'd love to meet your kids sometime." No pressure. Just, sometime. And for the first time in forever, I didn't feel like I was betraying anything by smiling. Next, a surprise visitor, a birthday cake with too many candles, and a question that changes everything. Stay with me. It's not over yet. We were home. Back to the usual chaos, toys in the sink, mismatched socks in the hallway, and that mysterious sticky spot on the floor that moves from place to place every day. But the energy was different. Lighter. As if someone had opened a window in the house that had been locked shut. It was my birthday again. A year had passed since that birthday. Since the day of the explosion. Since the day Sandra collapsed in the doorway, reeking of gin and secrets. I hadn't planned on doing anything, maybe order a frozen pizza and drink to survival, but Penny had other plans. She woke me up by jumping on the bed and shouting, "Happy birthday, Dad. You're not old, you're classic." "Thanks, sweetheart. That's what they say about old toasters." She handed me a rolled-up piece of paper. A drawing. Stylized figures, her, Milo, and me, smiling under a huge sun with the words, "Our happy dad." It could have destroyed me. But I held it together. Mostly. That evening, Eliza came over with a cake. Chocolate, with uneven frosting, with candles lit, one too many, on purpose. "The extra candle is for how much better you've been this year," she said, placing the cake on the table as if it were a sign of reconciliation. She was wearing a denim jacket over her dress and looked as if spring had come into my living room. "That's sweet," I said. "But also misleading. I've started not washing the dishes again, and the car smells like raisins." Penny ran over to Elise and handed her a drawing too. It was Elise as a superhero in a cape. "You saved Daddy," she explained. "He was a little broken." Elise blinked. Smiled. "Well, I had some good help. We ate cake. Milo smeared it in his hair. Elise helped clean up. It all seemed like the best kind of weirdness, improvised joy with people who didn't expect me to be perfect, just present. And then there was a knock. 3 slow knocks on the door. The kind that carried tension. As if the rhythm knew it was interrupting something. I opened the door, and there she stood. Sandra. With a gift bag. And with a smile so rehearsed that I could hear the rehearsal. "Happy birthday, Evan," she said. Eliza stood behind me, silent but firm. Penny peeked out of the kitchen. Milo dropped his spoon. I didn't say anything. Not yet. Sandra cleared her throat. "Can I come in? Just for a second?" "Depends," I said. "Are you here with apologies, revelations, or gluten-free muffins?" She forced a smile. "Just to close this chapter." I stepped aside. Just a little. She came in, put the bag on the table, and looked around. "It looks nice. Cleaner than when I lived here." "That's because the tension is gone." Sandra sighed. "I deserve this." Eliza stood motionless. Penny looked as if she were trying to solve a mystery. Sandra looked at Eliza. "You must be Eliza." Eliza smiled politely. "And you must be my lesson." The silence was velvety, soft but heavy. Sandra blinked. Then, with a kind of weary grace, she turned back to me. "I hear you're seeing someone. And that you're happy." "Yes," I said. "Turns out a broken heart is good fertilizer." She nodded. She looked at Penny. She told me she thinks you're the best dad. That's because I am. There was nothing more to say. Sandra picked up the gift bag. Maybe it's too soon. It's too late, I said. She didn't argue. She just smiled this time sincerely and left. Penny came over and hugged me. Eliza squeezed my hand. And I blew out the candles. All of them. Next, Eliza has news. Penny has questions. And I make a decision that could rewrite everything. Don't blink, we're almost there. People say, time heals all wounds. It doesn't. It teaches you how to carry them. If you're lucky, you build muscle around the break. Elise had news. She waited until the kids were at Grandma's, until we were on the back porch with wine and coffee mugs and the kind of silence that doesn't need fixing. I've been offered a teaching job, she said. In Portland. I didn't answer right away. Because my first reaction was panic, and panic never speaks wisely. Instead, I took a sip, leaned back, and finally said, that's good. Really good. For you. She smiled. Not the kind that said she was staying. You deserve someone who's not halfway out the door, I added. And if that's where the road takes you. I get it. Elise reached for my hand. I'd stay if you asked. I paused. A long one. I don't want to be the reason someone misses their chapter. Not again. We sat with that. There was no fight. No plea. Just mutual gratitude, wrapped in goodbye. She kissed me, slow and soft like a page being turned, then she left the next morning before the sun did. Later that week, I found myself in the attic, looking for Penny's old art set. Instead, I found something else, a journal. Mine. A decade old. Full of things I hadn't remembered writing. Quotes. Rants. Lists of things I thought made me a man. One page read. Being a good husband means never letting her see you doubt. Another. If she's crying, fix it. Don't ask. Just fix. And one, scrawled and underlined. Don't be your father. Don't be invisible. I laughed. Bitterly. I had tried so hard to be a counterfeit rock that I forgot to be real. I didn't share. Didn't show fear. Didn't let her in when I should have. And when she drifted, I blamed her without ever turning around to see what I'd become. That's not an excuse for what she did. But it's a reason why I missed it coming. Some skeletons wear khakis and keep to-do lists. I sat in the attic, surrounded by dust and echoes, and whispered to no one, you didn't know how to ask for help, did you? I didn't. But now? I was learning. That weekend, I took Penny and Milo to the lake. We made paper lanterns, the kind you light and let drift into the sky. Penny wrote a wish on hers. Milo drooled on his. I wrote one word. Enough. Enough pain. Enough guilt. Enough pretending. Just enough to let go. We lit them. Watched them rise. And as they drifted higher, Penny asked, what happens if they reach the stars? Then maybe, I said, someone up there gets a little hope back. Next, a call I never expected, a second chance I didn't ask for, and the moment that made every bruise worth carrying. This is it. The call came on a Tuesday. It wasn't dramatic. Just the soft buzz of my phone on the kitchen counter while I was cutting strawberries for Penny's lunchbox. The number didn't ring familiar, but something in me said, pick up. This one matters. Mr. Reynolds, the voice asked. This is Carla, the director at Harbolite Elementary. We've been reviewing your application for the school counselor position. We'd love to invite you in. I leaned against the counter, knife still in hand, breath caught mid-exhale. I had almost forgotten I applied. It was late one night. A quiet one. After the kids were asleep and I was tired of being scared of the future. I didn't know if I was qualified. But I knew how to listen. I knew how to show up. And maybe, just maybe, that was a kind of qualification. Yes, I said. I'd like that very much. Later that evening, Penny found me sitting on the porch swing, hands still. She climbed onto my lap, older now, but still willing to lean in without asking. Are you okay, Daddy? I nodded. Yeah. I think I am. She held up her latest drawing. It was all of us, her, Milo, Maine. But this time, we were standing under a tree. A new house behind us. And in the sky, paper lanterns still rising. What's this one called? I asked. New beginning, she said without hesitation. There are no perfect endings. But there are honest ones. If you're reading this, if you've ever stood in the ashes of something you swore would never burn, I hope you know this, you are not broken beyond repair. You are human. And healing isn't pretty or clean or fast. It's messy. It's circular. It backtracks and collapses, and then, one day, you laugh again without guilt. You deserve people who stay. Who show up. Who sit next to you in your attic of regrets and say, you don't have to be a rock. Just be real. I spent too long being silent. Too long trying to carry everything alone. Don't be like me. Don't wait for it to fall apart before you ask someone to stay. Love out loud. Cry when you need to. And when someone hands you a second chance, don't ask if you're ready, just take it with both hands and figure it out on the way. Because in the end, the only thing stronger than betrayal is what you choose to become after it. Here's to you. Here's to starting over. And here's to the paper lanterns we let go, that still find their way to the stars. The end. Thank you very much for watching, friends. If you liked the story, please like and subscribe, it's very important to me right now. I'll be very happy if you do. New videos every day.